mine! Let's find out.
So this is the face of a very happy long-time PlayStation fan after he's seen the PS5. Now, I've owned a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4 in my lifetime because nothing gives me more joy than to play, Sony's exclusive titles such as Uncharted, Last of Us, Spider-Man, and God of War, and of course, a lot more. Therefore, for me to be objective about my review of the Sony PlayStation 5 is going to be super tough, but I'm going to try nonetheless. Now, I'm going to be buying the Sony PlayStation 5 sometime in the future when I'm done with my catalog of PS4 games and when the console is available more freely, when the stocks are available more freely. Now, that said, I definitely want to give you guys a perspective on whether you should be buying the PlayStation 5 at its fairly high asking price of Rs 50,000 in India, whenever stocks are available next and if Reliance doesn't botch up your order. Well, my name is Ershad, you're watching MySmartPrice, and this is our review of the Sony PlayStation 5. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it if you guys like our review. By now you know that Sony's designers probably OD'd on multiple reruns of Star Wars and Blade Runner to come up with something as outlandish as the PS5. This hulking behemoth of a console is far bigger than any console Sony has ever made before. It doesn't even fit in my entertainment center in a vertical position, and if you don't have space, it probably won't in yours either. This is such a polarizing design that my wife is firmly in the camp which believes that this monstrosity doesn't deserve a place in the house, and I keep appreciating its eccentricities. Now, it has this distinctive retro-futuristic look with its extended white fins that create a reverse Oreo sandwich with the central black unit. The central unit has a glossy plastic finish which is invariably going to get scratched. By the way, the distinctive PlayStation pulsating indicator lights are the same as the PS4. It switches between white, orange, blue and red to indicate different modes. For example, a solid orange light indicates that the PS5 is in rest mode, and a solid white light is to tell you that the console is powered on. Now, this black unit is where you'll also find the power and disk eject buttons apart from the USB Type-A and USB Type-C ports. There are a couple of Type-A ports on the rear, the power port and Ethernet port and the HDMI 2.1 port that transfers visuals to your display of choice. Now, what I found odd was the placement of the disk slot in the white region, which almost feels like an afterthought. Now, here's the thing about the HDMI 2.1 port. On the PS5, you get a maximum transfer bandwidth of 32 Gbps compared to the Xbox Series X, where you get a maximum transfer bandwidth of 40 Gbps. Now, the other thing that you need to note is that both auto low latency mode and variable refresh rate are currently not available. However, Sony has confirmed that VRR is coming soon in a future update. Now, coming back to the design, the faceplates can be removed. In fact, if you want to add an extra NVMe SSD, you will need to remove the faceplate to access the bay, which means you can replace your white faceplate for a fantastic dark plate from D-Brand. Funnily enough, D-Brand adds its own apocalyptic take on the classic PS button shapes in microscopic textures that you can find on the plate. Speaking of which, the microscopic textures of the PS buttons on the plate is definitely a deft touch and a defining piece of design identity. As a matter of fact, you can find the same great microscopic textures of the classic face buttons on the back portion of the controller as well, which also aids in the grip while holding it. So yeah, about the controller, it is the best damn controller I've ever used for gaming. It is called DualSense now and is the real next-gen upgrade on the PS5. The controller has the same two-tone finish to maintain design consistency with the console. The new design makes it beefier and super comfortable to hold. The beefier handles have the right amount of curves to just sit in your palm comfortably for long gaming sessions. But all that next-gen wizardry lies inside the new rumble motor with haptic feedback and of course the great new adaptive triggers as well. And to experience this, Sony has made one of the best showcase games on a console ever, Astro's Playroom. You can feel the precise vibration effect when Astrobot walks on gravel or skates on ice. It just adds to the level of immersion. Similarly, when Astrobot shoots an arrow, you can sense the tension in the adaptive triggers. It feels absolutely surreal. Plus, the game also shows you a glimpse of how to code commands for the touchpad and the mic as well in-game. Coming back to the design, the dual face buttons are not colorful anymore. So PS5 designer Eugene Morisawa reasoned it out by saying that shapes are distinctive enough and therefore colors were removed to bring design consistency. That makes absolute sense to me. Also, the share button has now been replaced by a create button. It has all the same functionalities and some more. You can grab screenshots of videos, view what's in your gallery and more. The options button is still the same though, and it brings up the settings menu within games whenever necessary. One of the biggest jumps this gen has to be the inclusion of 3D audio using a pair of wired earphones / headphones on the included 3.5mm audio port. In a game like Spider-Man Miles Morales, paired with one more triple drivers, the 3D audio experience was pretty immersive. Sounds of the bustling city with cars moving past you from left to right, people's chatter, and more were all wonderfully elevated and placed in the 3D soundscape. I must say it also sounds louder in comparison to the DualShock's 3.5mm audio port. Another upgrade from the DualShock is the vastly improved battery life on the DualSense. I got around 8 hours of battery life after playing many sessions of Miles Morales and Astro's Playroom, both of which make copious use of the new haptic feedback engine. Now here's the thing, there are already reports out there which claim that the joysticks on the DualSense seems to be having a drift issue. Now this is something that I faced on my DualShock 4 that was there before this, and iFixit has also reported this as an issue. Now apart from that, there are certain reports which are also claiming that the adaptive triggers have an issue as well. Now what you need to understand is that these are mechanical parts and wear and tear is going to be a part of the equation. Having said that, I wish Sony had upgraded the quality of the internal parts for sure. Oh, by the way, PS4's DualShock 4 controller is compatible when you're playing PS4 games on the PS5, but the DualSense is not reverse compatible with the PS4, which makes sense. Moving on to the UI on the PS5, it is stark and minimalistic and looks very different from the PS4's UI. The UI puts games front and center with massive splash screens. What I also found intriguing is how the storefront is now organically integrated into the UI, although it does get some getting used to with respect to the design and navigating through the storefront. Now which is same for a few other changes as well. For example, once you are inside a game, simply pressing the PS button will bring up the control center, and if you actually want to head back to the home screen, you have to long press it, which was the other way around on the PS4. In fact, the control center UI slides up from the bottom of any screen, and the control center is what makes the new UI pretty interesting. There are context-sensitive cards that show up in a horizontal carousel while playing games. For example, when I brought up the control center while playing the game Control, it showed me how much of my current mission was pending and how long it was going to take me to complete it. It also pulled up all the trophy information as well. Even in its early state, I definitely found the UI to be polished and ready for prime time. Having said that, there's still a long way to go. Let's wait and watch what future updates bring. The very first information that Sony shared with the world about the PS5 is the fact that it uses a fast custom SSD. Now this 825GB SSD can hold up to 10 to 20 games depending on the size, but what matters is the fact that it offers super fast load times. Coming from a PS4, it was a huge sigh of relief for someone like me. For example, games like Spider-Man Miles Morales, which have huge maps, load extremely fast and there were no loading times at all. Now I'm not going to bore you with the specs, but it is based on an AMD Radeon RDNA 2 based graphics engine. What matters is that games look stunning, especially if they support ray tracing. In a game like Miles Morales, you get 3 modes. In Fidelity mode, you get to play the game at 4K 30 FPS with the best ray tracing available. Then there are 2 performance modes that bump up the frame rates to 60 FPS in 4K resolution. One that does it without ray tracing and one that tries to push ray tracing. In any case, I absolutely loved the RT graphics because the way the light plays with the surroundings and follows the concepts of physics while bouncing around and reflecting things adds to the sense of realism. To go back to gaming without RT on the PS4 is going to feel odd. PC players might scoff at the RT support since they've had it for 2 years now. It is still a step forward. At the moment, there are very few games that support RT at launch on the PS5, but I only expect it to improve. Now, if you do own a PS4 or a PS4 Pro, the graphics jump doesn't feel like a generational leap on the PS5 like it did when we moved from the PS2 to the PS3 or even from the PS3 to the PS4. Having said that, during the generation or the lifetime of a console, the games start looking better and better, so maybe we'll see better looking games in the future. Quite a few PS4 games have also been upgraded to look good as well. For example, God of War now has been upgraded to play at 4K 60 FPS with checkerboard rendering. If you've already played the game on the PS4 before, it is still a fantastic experience to unleash Kratos' wrath on the monsters in glorious 60 FPS gameplay. Unfortunately, I couldn't test 4K 120 FPS gaming because I don't have a TV that supports it. Also, Sony will support 8K 30 FPS gaming in a future update. Now, before I give you any sort of buying advice, let me tell you this, I absolutely enjoyed and loved playing on the PS5. It has the right kind of upgrades to keep me hooked for years to come. Although I must admit that it is an expensive hobby to upkeep. Now, if you were to build a similarly powerful PC, obviously the entry costs would be higher. Having said that, in the long run, the costs would turn out to be cheaper, especially because games are much cheaper on PC compared to the PS5. Which is why I would suggest that if you do end up buying the PS5, do consider subscribing to the PS Plus subscription, because you'll get 2 free games every month, and one of which could be a AAA title. For example, in February we got Control, and the price is just rupees 3,000 for the entirety of the year. Now, another point I must raise is the fact that the PlayStation 5 doesn't come with support for Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos, both of which are available on the Xbox Series X. Now, this is a pity considering this costs rupees 50,000 and it must cover all its bases, including the fact that it has to function as a media player for people who are investing in such a system. Also, more importantly, like I mentioned earlier, the HDMI 2.1 setup doesn't offer the kind of bandwidth that the HDMI 2.1 offers on the Xbox Series X. Now, here's how I look at the PlayStation 5. It is a gamer's console through and through. And if you like playing Sony's first-party exclusive titles, then you're gonna love playing on the PS5 for sure. Now, if you are on a PS4 or a PS4 Pro, and if you have a catalog of games pending to finish, then please do that first before you put your money on a PS5, like I have decided to do. But if you are on a PS3, please go ahead and buy a PS5 at the very moment. And now, if you're on a last gen Xbox, then definitely go ahead and buy the PS5. I'm kidding. Or am I? Well, my name is Ershad. You're watching My Smart Price. See you guys in the next one. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.